Construction and B. Taylor Painting based out of Northern California. This is our third digital trade show now, second one of the year. Last week went really well, and we were able to, in our opinion, let's say, we were able to reach out to everybody that's on video and asked if they wanted to do it again. One is Mitchell. He's unable to this week, but we actually brought on Janet, who will introduce, she'll get an opportunity to introduce here. And the whole idea and concept of this is we're all in a really business as unusual time right now, and we're all learning as we go. I've heard from a lot of owners and leaders of companies that have said like they planned for different situations and different things to happen in life with their companies and their business and their people, but they never really planned for this, nor did any of us. And I think it's important to talk about the things that we're going through and figure out ways to like get through this. So let's start out and go with Laura. Why don't you start with your introduction, and then we'll go around. We'll do Laura, Janet, Eric, Christy, and then Justin. So how's it going?
Hi, I'm Laura Ravazza. I'm the director. I just got promoted, so I'm not used to it. I'm used to saying I'm a portfolio manager. Now I am the director of education and marketing with Homeowners Management Company out of Concord. We're a smaller management company and just kind of navigating through all of this as calm and cool as we can possibly be.
Janet, you're up.
Hi, I'm Janet Quinn Dennis. I'm the founder of Pro Solutions, which is a assessment collection company, and most recently Quinn Dennis Mediation and Consulting. And I've my new handle, most of you knew me as the Digital Dinosaur, is as a baby boomer. I am a boomer zoomer or a zoomer boomer. You decide which one.
I think that's awesome. We were just telling her offline that she needed to change her name because she's no longer a digital dinosaur. And when she said, you know, boomer zoomer, I was like, that's legit. That's totally cool.
There was a legit poll and everything.
Was it on Facebook or where was it?
Yeah, Facebook.
Nice. Bravo. Bravo. How about Eric? You're up.
I am Eric Olson with Freestone Reconstruction and B. Taylor Painting. I'm an account manager there. We basically repair decks and building sidings, and I tell pretty much people that anything that's got wood on it, we're probably involved with it. So we're here to help.
Christy, you're next.
Okay. Hi, I'm Christy Bravo. I'm with Bravo Roofing, and we are a family-owned and operated full-service roofing company here in Southern California, specializing in HOAs and commercial properties. Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. Justin, you're up.
Justin Pastores with Freestone Reconstruction out of Fremont, California. I get to work with the lovely Kevin Hempel and Eric Olson, and I do the same thing that Eric does, so I just echo what he just said.
So now the introductions are done, why don't we start with Eric? Why don't we start with you? We named a conversation with chaos leaders because I think that a lot of us on the video right now often thrive and strive through the chaos and process. If things are too calming, we get challenges when it gets chaotic and there's things coming from all different directions. We're able to step up. And your says my internet's unstable, but we'll see how that goes. Your communication ability during this chaotic time has been awesome. So can you talk to us a little bit about how you're kind of handling the chaos and some communication challenges that you see that some people that might have been going through?
Honestly, what I find to be the biggest thing is, it sounds so basic and just like duh, but it's really just trying to keep the same habits that I had when we weren't doing this. I think just by nature, or Justin and my role is a little bit more by nature a little chaotic. I mean, our job is a lot of times sort of getting out of the office and reaching out to clients, and our schedules can be a little bit funky to begin with, because we might start out the day thinking, okay, here's 10 things that we're going to get done today, visit this client, this client, this client. And then we've got a project going on and something goes wrong, and that now all of a sudden our attention has to divert and focus on getting that project, whatever that issue is, resolved. So I think for me, it's more just about setting that list like I normally would, and then just basically staying in constant communication with the people that I'm working closely with. So, we have an estimator in-house, Mr. Johns, who normally would be on this. He and I are in pretty regular contact, just in terms of, hey, what are you working on today? What are you working on today? And it's just kind of taking that extra step of, maybe normally I wouldn't call him quite as often, but during these times, I'm in a little bit more regular communication with him. Just, if nothing else, it's sort of that reassuring touch, even though we wouldn't necessarily call it that. It does kind of what Janice was saying, to begin with, having that little extra bit of touch connection. It kind of gives you that feeling like, hey, we're all in this together. We're all working on the same things. And it also kind of helps us keep each other honest. Making sure that we are actually kind of trying to get things done and moving things forward.
That's awesome. Christy, how about you? How have things been going for you over the past week? And if you can, touch a little bit on the modes of transportation, like how you're transporting information out. Is it via text? Is it emails? Is it phone calls? Is it LinkedIn? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this last week, what we've really done is started focusing on all the things that we can do. So there are certain things that we know that we can't do, that's meeting with clients in person. So yes, been doing a lot more LinkedIn, a lot more communication on the phone, emails, and just really any kind of, touch, working with people that normally, I guess, wouldn't be doing email communications or Zooming and that kind of stuff, and just having the patience and having fun with it. Not taking like things too serious. Yesterday, one of my property managers, I was telling her about TikTok, and she downloaded it. She goes, gosh, that was the best conversation all week. Everything's been so somber, and like, thank you so much. So just, I think being more like authentic, yes, business is, as usual, but I almost think like there's so many good things coming out of this. Just like, you were saying, Eric, like you normally wouldn't like reach out as much, but it's just, I think it's bringing us all closer, and our team's making us stronger. So really focused on the relationships and meeting people where they're at with their technology and having fun with it. So.
To your point, so I still haven't seen your TikTok video from last week. I'm hoping that we're
still working on it. I'm still working on it.
But to your point of like different modes of communication too, I was thinking, I'm really impressed at even just this video here, how you can see the amount of time that people are spending. People are now starting to have, as I every day continue to get messages from people saying, I'm about to post my first video online, or how do you do it comfortably here? With a lot of people that I've been doing these types of videos with, you're all now getting super comfortable, and the camera, camera's placed in the right spot, and it takes a lot.
Oh yeah, I mean, this is not comfortable. This is out of my comfort zone. Okay, so, and you know that. And you know what? I just was watching a video, and it's neat to watch people. I look at these videos as our like these are just my beginning. So it's going to be interesting to see. So if anyone wants to Zoom ever outside of these calls, I'm in. So call me. We'll do it.
Janet's all over it. Justin, Christy touched bases on positivity and everything. And it really leads into our chat this morning about, kind of reaching into your, phone book or your Rolodex or whatever it is that you have, all your business cards from your trade shows, and actually calling clients or calling people you wouldn't have normally called before, or you just haven't called in a while, and giving them positive messages as opposed to negative. Can you touch base on the importance of positivity during the?
Yeah. We're all in this unusual boat together. And, Kevin knows I had a a moment on Tuesday where I felt like the walls were closing in. I have 2 kids that are in school. They're getting a lot of emails, a lot of homework. I think they're on more Zoom conferences than I am. But my wife and I were working in the same room, and I get distracted easy. And I had a almost like a breaking moment. And I'm like, wait a minute, hold on, we got to reset. And I get a text message saying, hey, my neighbors think I'm a stalker. And I open my garage, and there's Kevin keeping his social distance. So the fact that this guy comes walking from his house to mine at just this exact moment, and I'm like, Kevin, I can't work in this environment. Something's got to change. And he's looking in my garage, and he sees this surfboard in the rafters, and he's like, well, why don't you pull that surfboard down and put it on something, and you could set up in the garage. And at first I was being stubborn, and I'm like, well, I don't want to do that. It's going to be cold. But then I was like, well, why wouldn't I do that? And so he left, and I stopped being stubborn, and I got out the surfboard, and I got out some sawhorses, and I made myself a little office garage. And what it allowed me to do is evolve, right? I was getting caught in this is the way that it's going to be, but that's not the way that it has to be. You could evolve and move into something that is going to promote your own positivity, because we have to reflect that to our business partners. And I had a conversation. I reached into the Rolodex, called the client to see what was going on with the project, and we had a great conversation. And even it was a little bit to do with this upcoming project that we have with him, but more to do with just my experiences with my kids and their schoolwork and life stuff. And he goes, man, I'm glad we had this conversation, because my kid has been on spring break, and he's going to be coming out of this. This conversation is going to get me to make sure that we have things set up, so I don't, we experience some of the same struggles that you did. And that's the amazing opportunity they have right now with video and the way that we're connecting. It's amazing. But we are called to it. The people of us that are aware of it, like, we have to, if we're struggling, be transparent about it and let people know, this is what I struggled with, and here's how I got through it. And you never know what that can do to change somebody's trajectory in their day, because we are all in this very unusual space, and we're learning to thrive and succeed in it. But along that, we're going to take some lumps, and nobody will have a cool desk like mine with the surfboard, but
that's
okay.
like the best story ever. I'm like, I would hire you just for you telling that story. Like, that is seriously like amazing. That is just, yeah.
Justin,
Yeah.
a little tip. I started my business over 20 years ago in my garage. And the biggest thing, even though we put the walls up and all that kind of stuff, it was cold. And so a tip is I installed halogen lights. In the morning, we'd go and put all the lights on, and the halogen lights would heat the space.
Look at Kevin's face right now. He's all, yeah, I got some caulking, I got some drywall, I got some spackling.
Yeah.
So I'm totally there. But what it hit me was when you said I started my company in a garage. So a lot of garage bands became some of the world's biggest bands. And years ago, some of the biggest businesses that exist currently right now started in their garage. So when you said it, I immediately went like, whoa, could you imagine the different companies that are being started in their garage or in their living room right now? Like,
Oh yeah.
I heard this morning that 2020 was supposed to be the age of entrepreneurship, and now we're in the age of like survival. But the reality in my head went like, no, we're totally still in that age of entrepreneurship. Could you imagine the clients and the people, even some of the businesses we're thinking of as we're talking about it, that are going to come out of this experience? Like, that's what was mind blowing.
That's grassroots right there. Being in a garage. I had a garage business. So yeah, I mean, maybe that's why it's bringing back good memories for me.
Yeah.
Seeing him in the garage, I'm like, that is so powerful. So you enjoy that garage, okay? You enjoy that space.
I will say you should go visit Miss Janet's garage, because her garage is pretty epic right now.
Yeah, since the office moved out, it now has a Murphy bed and Persian rug and
Nice.
heat and air conditioner. So we do get elevated. I realized that I had to fight my own prejudice in my head about being a valid company and a valid provider, because I wasn't in a 41 floor office building in downtown San Francisco anymore. And so I had God put people in my life that started their business in this industry, management companies, attorneys, in their home space. And I just kept concentrating on them, and that, the service I provide can be valid wherever I provide it. So it's overcoming my own prejudices.
You thought about them though without envy, right? You thought about them with the opportunities that you were going to be going towards or getting there. I think next week's talk is going to be about, the business that was started in my garage. Like, that's legit. That is awesome. I love it. That gets me excited. Well, cool. Laura, tell us a story about this, this past week and communication and anything that you're always full of information for us. And it's Laura time. What you got?
Okay, so this week I have realized how many safeguards I put inside myself to make sure that I don't just react in certain situations, be it positive, bad, good, indifferent. I somehow instilled these safeguards in me, and I think it's like a heightened self-awareness of what I'm doing. And I've kind of been reflecting on that and thinking about that lately. And it honestly brought me back to when I used to drive long haul across the United States semis. And I did that for 2 years to save up enough money to move to California. So when you are a truck driver, you're called a professional driver. So if somebody cuts you off or you get in an accident or whatever the case may be, it's you as a professional driver should have been able to control and see that was happening in all aspects around your office or semi, if you want to call it. So you were always like the first person at fault. It didn't matter if the other driver did something wrong or whatever the case may be. So that made me think about, like, even right now in our heightened level of communication that we're doing, in people just not being their normal selves in normal situations, and they're trapped at home in their garages because the kids are doing school and all these things. They're not communicating the right way they need to communicate. So we need to shift the gear. I need to shift the gear to be a professional communicator, just like I was a professional driver. So no matter what the situation is, my fault, not my fault, it doesn't matter. It's my job to be the professional communicator in that situation and to make sure that I'm keeping my cool, that I'm speaking in a way that I wouldn't be ashamed or embarrassed about later, especially in writing, because our intention is not their perception. Intention, perception. Two completely different things. And we really need to make sure that we're being aware of that in either reading emails aloud to ourselves, calling somebody in your team, whatever that case may be, so that you are getting across exactly what I'm trying to get across. I think so big picture that sometimes I over communicate. So then I need to make those adjustments in myself to under communicate and to make sure the person I'm communicating with is understanding even what I'm saying, because I could be speaking a different language to them. So like not only having that heightened awareness within myself to make sure I don't react in things, but also my communication. Like now what do I need to put in to safeguard myself so I don't go rawr. Anybody else?
That's awesome.
I love that you were a truck driver. I love like where this conversation's going. I mean, it's just like, that's amazing.
You didn't know she was a truck driver prior?
No idea, but that is just awesome. Especially because we're in male-dominated industries for me. So when I see or hear other women doing things that, yeah, that's awesome, Laura. Seriously.
Yeah, 22 years old and a semi across country. I've run into a couple situations, we'll call them. Far worse than anything I've come across in the HOA world.
But you're able to apply it here, right?
Right.
You're able to apply
right, so like
it.
taking that extreme awesome. And applying it to something that's not so extreme. How was I, from a small town in Wisconsin, going to move to California in the Bay Area where I've always wanted to live? I had to do something, right? To me, that was the quickest, easiest way to make my dreams happen. And it's something that you would think that's so small, like what could you really get out of something like that? But it's amazing now in my career where I go back to those skills and apply them all the time to what I'm doing, because it's so meticulous and it's so important and it impacts so many people that they don't even begin to understand, and recognizing that you're never going to get the understanding from the masses of what you do, and you just have to be okay with that within yourself. Those are all things I learned from truck driving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't realize how fearless you are until you face it. And generally when we're younger, that's when we do things without thinking about how fearful we should be. And yeah, you know, I love your experience. I love you sharing that. And
I should say, sorry, Mom.
I love being
My kid trying to do that right now. I'd be like,
That's you know, that's something touching base on the past experiences when you were younger and stuff. I know, I'm sure there's a lot of stuff I put out there, Janet, that you've seen that you're like, ooh, that's interesting. And we've talked about a lot of that stuff, but the reality is like, right now, especially in the stories and the different things that we're sharing and all the Zoom calls we're making, like there are so many people that are putting themselves out there and wanting to get out there. Now that we're in, you know, self-isolation aspects and some being forced into that realm, that it's skewing the lines of personal and professional. And it's something that we've been talking with for a lot of years about branding, right? Like, Janet, I'm super proud of you in the past couple of years taking that step and in calling yourself a digital dinosaur and like slowly starting to get in and doing your first podcast and then doing speaking event. Like, you came from a period and a time in our industry in particular that like none of that was accepted. None of it ever happened. And you have been one of the first people that I've seen actually in your demographic professionally that has blossomed in that. Like, the very fact that you're like on a Zoom call, and I've seen you posted the other day, you were on with your grandkids and like, here's digital granny, like talking to like you're that light, right? Like, that's awesome to me. Can you
talk you doing yoga?
Yeah, yoga on Zoom?
Hello.
What?
Yeah.
Talk to us
I'm
about
so
that.
proud of my little PIC.
Janet, tell us about how people or professionals in your demographic can do what you're doing and what you've gone through for.
I surround myself with people like you guys. Kevin, I remember a little over a year ago, first meeting you in Southern California. And that's where that first podcast came for me. My lines have blurred my entire life between personal and professional. I'm Italian. I give you different languages, English and Italian hands, and my recovery has been based on the fact that I can no longer just kind of stay in my head with all the fears and the committee that goes on. I have to talk about my stuff, and I use stuff because I know this is going to be posted, but it's, you know, it's stuff. I got that I am part of the demographics they talk about today with this disease of, I'm going to be signing up for Medicare in May. Holy shit. I have a compromised immune system. I live by myself. And I have realized that we've been talking about communication. I'm a mediator, so we mediate, you know, communication is a big deal. And we've been talking about it for a very long time. And some of us older participants have been frustrated at texting and emailing and, you know, things that aren't personal one-on-one communication. Because everything can get misconstrued. You can tell if I am being my authentic self by talking to me. You can look at my face, you can look at my eyes, you can hear what I say. And if I see that you can't understand that, I can make adjustments so that I am clear. And so today, I really am trying to take advantage because I feel so isolated. It's been going on for months now, not just since this coronavirus. And it was one thing, you know, on my grief journey to decide, you know, I can't deal with the outside. That's one thing. But once I was told, you must stay in the house, I automatically felt like a caged lion. And I joke about, you know, my walls having my claws all the way through it because I am frustrated. And I realized, to just share with you, I realized that we can be a little kind of compartmentalized. On a personal basis, I went and visited my grandson, got married in Texas. I did the journey. I came back in the beginning of March when this thing started blowing up. And I kept hearing about, okay, quarantining 2 weeks, quarantining 2 weeks. Now I consider, I'm a, a smart, smarter kind of person, with, and, I can think about things. And, but what I did was I concentrated on a personal basis on that 2 weeks. And somewhere in my mind, I thought at the end of those 2 weeks, I'm going to be able to have a face-to-face with somebody, with my family, be able to, hug, just have that one-on-one. And I somebody that was really close to me, I won't blow their cover, when I said, so when it's been 2 weeks, so when am I going to see you? And they're like, when this is over. And it just pulled me up short. And it's like, it's not just about me. It's about what's going on. And I have to find different ways to keep my sanity. So professionally and personally, being able to have at least the video, and I can't tell, just today alone, I did a teleconference with Clack. And just in that conversation, the word Zoom was mentioned 20 times. And I saw that I was participating on yoga because I couldn't move my body, and physical therapy outside my house by Zoom with somebody that's in this industry and is providing fabulous classes every day. I was doing that. I was doing things with my family. I was doing things personal, business-wise with Zoom. And I'm a firm believer in putting my money where my mouth is, so to speak. And anytime I do any kind of investment in a company, it's because I believe in what they do. And so what I did is I called my financial person up and said, is there any, no, I'm not calling to pull everything out in a panic, but is there anything that I can take out and invest? And he said, yeah. And I invested it in Zoom. So I was like, okay, this is my lifesaver. And it's going to be an opportunity for me to continue to help an industry that I feel so passionate about. Give back what I have been given for so many years. So what I'm doing is started out with you younger professionals, and you gave me a gift that I feel like I can kind of put forth. But it also made me realize, if you allow me just one more minute, the seniors in our community need a little more help. And I haven't quite figured out how I'm going to be able to do that for them, because I'm not leaving the house. What can I do to encourage that? Because our physical health is also tied into our mental health. And all this isolation is not good for some people. I am not an introvert, not in any way, shape, or form. So it's like, if we as leaders in this industry can find ways to be able to do that, I will be a big cheerleader for that. If we have time later to go back, I'd like to share what came out of our CLAC meeting and what's going on with how we can better help our HOAs with things like the Open Meeting Act and how do we act and collections and what, so that's, I feel like I've taken up a lot of time, so I'll shut up now. Thank you very much.
No, don't. Go right into that. Flow into that next step on how we can help, and we can.
Okay.
When you're done, we can start rounding up the rest of this, so we can get everything back to work.
Okay. So Sacramento, of course, is closed in the capital, and probably will be. They don't know that April is going to be a time frame. They thought maybe April, but maybe not until May. CLAC itself, which is the legislative arm of CAI, the California Legislative Action Committee, which I'm one of the delegates, and Laura is on our local LSC, which is a legislative support, as well as you are. Are you still on us, Cap?
I don't know.
That now, and I help with PR stuff.
Okay, so anyway.
A little bit of that.
So anyway, what's happening, the big deal is the issue with the Open Meeting Act. Governor Newsom came up waiving certain requirements from the Brown Act, which is like you don't have to have a location and for our meetings with HOAs, you don't have to have a location where people show up, and you can really take advantage of the digital platforms better. Our Open Meeting Act still requires that somebody shows up at a location and other people can actually show up. And we're trying to ask the governor to basically tweak what's going on with the Open Meeting Act so that we can allow more for what we're doing now instead of having somebody actually present at a location and have people show up for the meetings. So that's kind of one big deal on what's happening. As far as collections are concerned, I had gone through, like most of us, the 2008 economic tsunami in our industry. And it was really devastating for our HOAs and individuals that had to go through that. What's happening now is going to kind of potentially talking to their boards about, and I totally support this. I mean, part of the problem we had before was everybody handled the issue of collections and deferment and penalties differently. We started out now where some of our big banks are deferring for 90 days mortgage payments if you have to, not writing them off, but deferring them. So in the national level, it is happening. On our statewide level with collection of assessments, I think we have to really put out there that there are certain things that as a whole, we really should consider for our membership. Starting out by communicating what that is clearly. We can't waive assessments. Of course we can't waive assessments because, it's the lifeblood of every HOA and we have to pay our bills. But there are things such as collection of late charge or imposition of late charges or interest that can be waived during this time. So just kind of considering what your policies are, talk to your legal beagles to look at what your collection policies are, and let's kind of gently handle this process, well, as gently as we can, because this can really have a devastating effect. And some of the unintended consequences, I mean, even with what the banks are doing now, it can potentially set up for those that really don't get much help, assistance through this process. Eventually they can, the banks will say, okay, now you have to pay, and people aren't paying and bankruptcies increase. And I mean, we already have over 1 million people on unemployment in California. So economically, we're going to really have to put our hats on and, be kind, be consistent, don't treat different people differently because, we all know that some of our membership are socially challenged, and that creates a lot of issues. And boards might want to treat those people differently. We can't do that. We got to treat everybody the same in that respect. So I got a lot. My soapbox is really, really high when it comes to that. So I'm just hoping.
You brought up so many different situations and things as you were talking about it when we're making all those changes in the CID world and the different things that could come down the loop economically and the effects that could happen for months, if not years from now, huh?
Yeah.
Wow. That's interesting.
And we're just coming out of it. We're just really coming out of it from the 2008 debacle, so there's not a lot of wiggle room there.
When just a question for me for you is when how do you think these things are gonna come into effect, and when are we gonna be seeing changes in the next couple of weeks maybe, or do you think it's gonna be a couple months before?
Some of the businesses that I spoke with about this, and I've talked to, my son handles the collections of delinquent assessments with Pro Solutions. Now I've kind of been removed from that. Okay. But generally, it hasn't quite started yet. March has been, basically unchanged. But what I'm told is we see, you know, coming up in April and beyond, number one, because people are affected now and on unemployment now, and you know, some people don't have the ability to get paid while they're not working, and it's April is when it's going to really start hitting home, is the opinions that I've been given, and I have to agree.
Well, okay, it's actually an issue even right now. We were literally just having this conversation amongst my team this morning of like, what can we do? How can we help? You know, make sure we're guiding the boards, because obviously these are corporations. We can't just waive assessments. Like, that is against business judgment rule and fiduciary responsibilities and all of those things. But how can we help navigate this? And then how do you set up a payment for plan for people who don't have payment to plan with?
Right. Well, you know, it's all thinking outside the box issues with maybe not waiving, but a deferment for 90 days or pay something every month. I mean, generally, I have found that if you get people to buy into the situation, even if it's sending, you know, a very limited amount, they're still vested in that. But I think more importantly, we just really have to have a policy on that. And I'm a payment plan queen for personal reasons. I have always thought it a best deal that when worst comes to worst, the principal has to get paid at some point, but late interest and even fines in some cases are the wiggle room that you have to show your membership that you're willing to work with them, and it doesn't have that effect. We're nonprofits anyway, so we really, you know, it's not a thing where the association has to make money during this, but they have to get their assessment. So,
well, it is more like a philosophical question.
I'm sorry.
It's more like a philosophical question. Like, if I just have this communication with the person I rent my home from. I said, you know, I wanted to give her the sense of comfort that fortunately I'm employed and my husband's still employed and we're going to be able to pay that rent. This is her first rental property. She's an amazing landlord and I didn't want her carrying that stress. So I reached out and said that. But I'm lucky to be in that situation. How I not be getting my paychecks or anything else? This is just like a thing for somebody to marinate in society to think on. I'm not expecting an answer right now. But like, how do you enter into a 90-day payment plan when for 60 more days we could still be in this situation where people are not getting money? Like, how do we, like, on a bigger level, start like helping people and solving those problems? Yeah. So that's what I would challenge everybody to think about between this week and next week. Like, what are some outside the box things that you could do with people who can't plan right now?
Well, you know, it's that you say that when you listen to all the talking heads on television that are talking about, let's say, just the mortgage company or your bills, that the emphasis is communicate now. If you know you have an issue, you communicate now. I'm unemployed. I don't have money coming in. Communicate that now. So you're putting out there that it's okay to talk to us about what your circumstances are, and you can be as creative as, you know, your professionals give you advice to, as far as how you would word a payment structure to be able to do that. Because here we are now, post 2008, that even if a homeowner, the way the law is structured, even if a homeowner just sends in $10, you have to accept it. You can't send it back, you know. So we've got our hands tied somewhat on not being in a position where we're able to work with people like that. But communicate, we keep talking about it. We keep putting it out there.
Man, that's awesome. I'm so glad. Well, I say awesome loosely, right? Like, it's such as when I say like positive aspects, like I understand that, we all understand here that things are happening and they're super fluid. They're really negative. We've got data and stats that are continuing to come in, but the reality is that we live in a world of chaos right now. We live in a world of uncertainty. That's the way life is, and we have to do the things as chaos leaders to be able to get us to that next step, because the last thing we all want to do is just sit frozen and not do anything and not make any decisions. At some point, we have to hypothetically architect these goals in our mind and then start doing the things to get to those.
Yeah, doing nothing is not an option.
Yeah. You know, Kevin, and I apologize, my phone died there. That's why I jumped. You lost me there for a minute. But as people have been kind of talking and sharing, you know, what strikes me is I feel like we're all kind of going through a collective sort of grief counseling together. And we're all trying to figure out how to get through this stuff together and help each other find, you know, anybody that's been to therapy, one of the things they work with you on is like, okay, I get that you have roadblocks. How do we find ways around those roadblocks so you can keep your life moving forward? And I kind of feel like this is sort of our little support group. And I'm sure others are kind of doing similar things of like, now what? Now, how are you doing the same things you're doing? How I love Justin's story of the surfboard desk. I mean, that's awesome. We should call this episode Surfboard Desk or something.
Maybe that'll be the newsletter we send out, and then maybe he can send us a picture of it with his feet in the sand. So you're gonna get a pool, and then load it with sand, and put your feet in it, and then put your Pellegrino and your water right next to it.
Yeah, and it says surfing through chaos.
That's right.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Surfing through chaos, and then your new entrepreneur desk is going to be a desk that has a tabletop of a surfboard, so that even when you sell it to corporate companies, like it's got the surfboard there.
That's awesome, man.
That's awesome, dude. Well, does anybody have any final words aside from hearing this last question that I have that I want to end off with?
Yeah, I really just want to emphasize like how important it is to just stop for even if it's 5 minutes. Like, you know, managers, business partners, when you're in a situation, just please hit pause before you do something. I'm doing this myself almost on everything, just because we're in a new environment and I'm just, you know, figuring out working from home with a husband upstairs who loves to come down and tell me how he would handle something, or, you know, my son's like, oh, you won't work. So just pause and don't beat yourself up and don't lose hope that because you're not doing it the way you used to do it in your office or in other things. It's literally day 8. You cut yourself a break.
That's so true. It's so true. Just yesterday I did that. I actually took a 20-minute nap in the middle of the day because I was like, I'm done. Like I'm done. So I took a nap, and when I woke up, I had the work phone right next to me, and I looked at it, and I was half awake, half asleep, and I replied back to 2 team members, and it was very jagged. I threw this text out, and then I walked away and was like, I figured that out. And then I thought about it, and I grabbed a soda, and then I went back and I was like, I'm sorry. I just woke up. I'm super sorry. Like, I totally apologize. And they both sent back like a thumbs up. Don't worry about it. But it took me a moment. I literally sent this thing, and then I went back and was like, I apologize. So to yours, even if you don't get an opportunity to take a break and you just fly it out there, realize you still have time. So even when it's like you've done something, you got time to apologize for it. So yeah. Awesome. Well, final question I have is I want to go around to everybody and just give one thing that you are have gratitude for today at this moment. Like, what are you most thankful for here? It could be about anything. Laura, Christy, why don't you start?
Okay. I'm just thankful that I'm able to connect with people that I wouldn't otherwise be connecting with, and just for the opportunities that this situation is presenting itself. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Eric, what are you thankful for?
Similar to that, I think I'm grateful that not only are we connecting, but I think I'm grateful for the people that are willing to open themselves up and share the issues and struggles that they have, because that takes a lot of guts, especially when things aren't going great, to be able to say, hey, I'm really sort of struggling with this. But at the same time, get that sort of reassurance. I think that, to me, I'm extremely grateful for having connected with people that get it, that get the struggle, get that you're going to have days where you feel like, God, I didn't feel like I didn't do anything today. And then other days where it's like, it's clicking, and you can give that positivity and share that with somebody else that might be struggling that day. and it's a constant sharing process when it works well. And I feel like we've got a good group of people that kind of get that.
That's cool. Justin?
Man. I'm thankful for God, man. You know what I mean? Like that would be my first and foremost. And I'm thankful that God brings about connections, man. Just when we absolutely are at a breaking point and he sends a guy walking down the sidewalk with a mohawk with this idea of a surfboard desk, you know what I mean? Like that's not a coincidence, man. You know what I mean? Like it's just not. And I really feel like things are getting brought back to basics, and we really have a unique opportunity to come out on the other side of this thing on top and bigger and stronger than before. But it takes this back to basic human connection, communication stuff that we maybe have gotten away from. We get caught in the busyness of life and our own schedules and all that stuff where we just go. This is allowing us to take a step back and say, okay, what's really important? You know what I mean? And so, yeah, man, I'm thankful for these groups. I'm thankful for Zoom. You know what I mean? I'm thankful for so much today, man. So thankful to be part of this group for sure and on this call.
That's cool. Janet, what do you think?
Yeah, I've got my head is full of those things that I have to be grateful for, because that's one of the things that I have to do for my own recovery. So I would say that I'm grateful for my recovery because I'm present for this. And, if I were not, this would not be a pretty sight. I wouldn't be participating in this. I'd feel very sorry for myself. I wouldn't be a service to anybody. And so to be able to have a conscious contact with my higher power to say, okay, I don't know how to do this myself, so I need some guidance. And okay, whatever you put in my path, I will try to say yes to. So
that's awesome.
It is.
Laura?
I'm actually thankful for the shelter in place. It's made me think outside the box and reflect on myself when I felt like maybe I was getting a little bit more stagnant in my skills and my abilities. It's really like lit a fire inside of me. It's brought my team closer together. We're all, working great. Everybody's calm. We're checking in on each other, handling stuff problem by problem, and not, reacting to things. I'm actually really grateful for it. I'm making connections with people that I already had connections with, but maybe not as strong because we're having these conversations. So like as hard as the shelter in place is and as difficult it is, I see so much beauty in it. I'm really, really grateful for it.
Thank you, Laura.
That's awesome. And I'm really grateful for all of you. Like the idea of doing something online, doing what we originally called the digital trade show, is something that I think I've spoken to all of you over the past couple of years, and it was received as like, okay, we're not quite sure what this is. But all of a sudden, the power that be created this thing, the situation, to where it just made sense. And, I want to say thank you to all of you for being, honest and open and making time within your busy schedules and day to be able to sit on a video call for 45 minutes to an hour and just chat and be vulnerable and be authentic. And, I'm excited and thankful for all that. I'm grateful for all of you. So
Thanks for setting up this forum.
yeah, super easy. It's this thing called Zoom. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Hey, boomer zoomer.
So I'm going to stop the record button here. And those who have to get off, feel free to get off. I'm going to be around for another 5 or 10 minutes, just kind of round up everything once I press the record button done. But this is going out unedited, unsquared away, and we're just going to, let it upload to cloud, and then we'll post it to Twitter, social media and blogs, and we'll get it out there. And anybody, once again, if you've made it this far into the video, if you want to come on next week or you want to do your own, and you would like some help with that, I am totally here. We are available. This is our job. This is my job. It's serving, capital SERVICE. And this is one of the ways that we can do that. So
Yes.
Everybody have a great day, and I'm going to go ahead and press stop here. So, yeah, thanks.